Over the refusal to let the US use Spanish bases and also not to increase the amount of money it's paying towards NATO. Now you have a falling out with Friedrich Merz in Germany and threatening to pull the troops out of Germany. This could be a premise to what Donald Trump would really like, and that is for the US to pull out of NATO. He's made no bones about the fact that that is something that he's considering, but he needs the accord of Congress to be able to do that, and that's something he probably won't get for the time being. The other thing I think is important to underline here is that if the US does pull out of Europe, does turn its back on its European allies, it's shooting itself in the foot as far as its military might is concerned, because with its allies within NATO plus the US, you have 50% of the world's military might. 50% in Europe and the rest of NATO 50% in the US. So if the US were to pull out, it would then only have 25% of that military might, turn its back on its allies, and it would be in a weaker position face to face with Russia on one side and China on the other. And we know there's no love lost between Donald Trump and the Chinese, and the fact that Donald Trump views the Chinese as being a threat to US industry. So it's all rather confusing in where Donald Trump is going with all of this. And it's also true that Donald Trump's got mixed up this week between Ukraine and Iran, saying, oh, well, all of Ukraine's military has been decimated, when in fact that's not true. With the amount of money, the 90 billion euros that's come from Hungary, plus the other money coming from the United States, there has been an increase in the amount of arms being made in Ukraine, putting Ukraine in a much stronger position, and the amount of territory the Russians are now capturing has sort of come to a standstill. So if we're actually honest about it, it looks like the tide is beginning to turn in Ukraine's favor. But it's true that whenever Donald Trump is talking to Vladimir Putin, because Donald Trump is fascinated by Vladimir Putin, because Donald Trump would like to be like Vladimir Putin, he will then follow what Vladimir Putin says. So this is just the same as we've seen dozens of times before. Donald Trump gets on the phone to Vladimir Putin, comes back and changes his point of view. What we don't know right now is, will there be a ceasefire on May the 9th, which is something that Vladimir Putin has said he's willing to respect. We don't know whether that's actually going to go through, and Volodymyr Zelensky still says he doesn't have enough information as to whether or not that ceasefire is going to be respected or not.
It's interesting, Annette, talking about spitting out her coffee during King Charles's speech, talking about Magna Carta. I'm sure President Zelensky might have had a similar feeling when he was talking about Ukraine and he got Iran mixed up. Martin, just listening to Philip and listening to Annette as well, trying to understand the momentum on the battlefield. Philip talking about largely frozen. We know that transformation has become this dominated by drone warfare. The front lines no longer called the front lines, they're called the kill zone. We've seen Ukrainian special forces this week hitting the Russian oil refineries again and again on the Black Coast. Give us your assessment of the battlefield.
So yes, I agree with the assessment that currently Ukraine is in much better position than it was last year. And that is, yes, thanks to right now, thanks to the 90 billion euro package that it got from the EU. This will help Ukraine finance its drone production throughout this year. As I mentioned before, drone warfare is right now playing a crucial role both on the front lines and helping with long-range strikes against Russian oil providers. And I think that this long term is the best way how to undermine the funds that feed Russia's war mission, which is oil and gas sector.
Martin, good to have your thoughts. Let's talk about a completely different kind of battlefield next as we flash back to 1301 Clay Street, Oakland, California, Tuesday morning, just after 8 o'clock inside Federal Courtroom 1, where the case of Elon Musk versus Samuel Altman et al. Began. The two billionaires sat just yards away from each other, one the world's richest, the other at number 1,227, according to Bloomberg Billionaire Index. Bitter rivals who started as friends with a shared vision a decade ago. They co-founded OpenAI with a founding charter was quote, open source technology for the public benefit and, quote, not organized for the private gain of any person. Well, that document was shown in court this week as the foundation of Elon Musk's case. He argues that OpenAI breached its founding mission as a non-profit. Executives of the OpenAI empire betrayed that charitable mission. They essentially looted it for private gain. He called himself a fool in court. He said he was misled when he gave $38 million to help get the company off the ground, that he wants the money back, plus a restructuring of OpenAI back to a charity, the removal of Sam Altman as CEO, and an estimated $130 billion to be removed from the profits of executives and funneled back into the charity arm. The district judge, Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers, called Musk before the break to the bench and said before opening statements had finished, she was threatening to impose a gag order on him if he didn't dial back his posting on X. She said to him to keep his online criticism of Sam Altman and OpenAI in check. Well, OpenAI's defense is that Elon Musk knew and approved the for-profit structure. They've got emails to show it. They argue this is about competitive jealousy. They claim Musk left because he couldn't get unilateral control, and he's tried to hobble the company since he began. Let's start with your take, Philip. A different